I would like to talk about my psychology at Textile, which has been an obsession of mine for quite a few years. I propose to analyze how fabrics subconsciously affect the mind on many levels. I propose to analyze how touch or visual impacts can affect the brain. And I'm obviously talking about microscopic inputs. I believe that, and it makes perfect sense to me, that the brain will perceive those messages. There is no way in the whole wide world that somebody touching or visualizing some linen, coarse linen, is going to perceive it and memorize it in the same way as satin, a lovely, soft red satin, for instance. I'm saying red because the color gets to have obviously a very strong role in this, but I'm focusing really on the macroscopic, tiny messages in the molecular, or not so molecular actually, in the weft of the fabric. And I'm trying to demonstrate, I'm trying to write about it, how this could actually be used in correlation with the messages brought out by the touch or the sight of those fabrics. The memory of these fabrics could actually be used in therapy context with regards to the relations they could have to with childhood stuff. As in, for instance, you have sound stimuli in music, voice roles in musical compositions relating to patriarchal or matriarchal figures. And that's a stimulus that actually counts and impacts the brain in one way or another. I'm trying to sort of study the same thing when it comes to textile structures. Whatever experience somebody might have, everybody has a different case, everybody has a different approach to visual or tactile stimuli. And it would depend on also the person's background, of course, and their current emotional and intellectual status, I suppose, and their where they're at in life. But you know, all this could be divided into grids. You know, like yeah, a grid, some kind of graph. You know, X and Y being X being, for instance, the person's personality, or the case's personalities and or whatever the circumstances, and in their background, and Y being a constant with the fabric and various aspects of the textile. It's an essay, and I'm writing it. At the moment, it's not exactly very structured, but I like to share it because I think that it's important to voice things like that on YouTube, other than, I don't know, hair tutorials. So yeah, I'm also working at perhaps getting funding when I have this. I personally love dance and singing, but I also do fashion illustration. I've done fashion design since I was a child, and it's, you know, something I was brought up with. My mother is she's always, and my aunt always had this influence on me with regards textile and design. I grew up with textile, and I grew up with a lot of threads, and those were my environment. as in people growing by the sea or by the mountains and with sheep, know the sheep better than their own family sometimes. This was my environment, the textile. So growing up surrounded with threads and textile actually influenced me greatly. And I really am passionate about this too, as well as about the music and great composers. So yes, my own experience with regards textile and thread and wefts. I have a video on YouTube about how various aspects of fashion, including textile, can influence the mind. And you might find it interesting if you search it. I think it's called Textile Fashion Psychology something. Oh, well, yes, that's right. And there's another one I studied, red velvet or red satin, just as an example. And obviously in there I chose to study the color red too. But if you really look at it objectively, how does touching a velvet influence us? What does it remind us of? There are thousands of books about this, how fur and velvet remind us of skin and hair, animal hair or human hair, what it represents in our mind subconsciously. And then you have the rough surfaces in linen. And what does it really mean? What does it subconsciously mean to various types of people? What does it remind them of? This is what I'm talking about. I'm fascinated by the subject and I want to study it. Anyway, keep you updated. If you want to visit my websites, I've got two mainly. One on fashion, fashioniq.info, and midnightnotebook.com. And I've got Tumblr, that's midnightnotebook.tumblr.com, and fashionillustrator.tumblr.com. I'm really tired and I think I'm gonna lie down. Good night.